3 hours later.
Hey guys, so do you have any progress?
Well, given the array of information, I think we can first remove the irrelevant columns. See this site info, site accessibility, and demographics. So aside from the site name itself, the other columns don't tell us much about the conditions of the camp, which we must be focused on.
So why do you remove the presence of service providers and the specific services? Doesn't it give us an idea of how much aid is needed?
Yes. While they are able to somewhat indicate risk, there are many blank cells under the specific services covered. Furthermore, descriptions are also extremely vague, so utilizing information has little value for our classification model.
Right, that's a good start. How should we approach on the remaining data then?
Okay, I think we can look at some of the more important NFIs and risk indicators in the context of disease outbreaks. I think that the emergency shelter kits is the first level of protection for personnel from undesirable outdoor elements that can affect their general physical well-being. The hygiene kits and mosquito nets are more significant in determining the risk of disease outbreaks than cooking sets and bedding sheets. Additionally, many disease outbreaks in such campsites are due to overcrowdedness. It is thus extremely important risk factor to consider.
I agree. Given the emphasis on potential disease outbreaks, I believe it is also important to focus on the type of main health concerns that these campsites have. Look what I found. Malaria, pneumonia, and diarrhea are the three most common primary health concerns, accounting for 82% of all campsites. I think we should focus on these sites.
That's a good point. It is much more efficient to focus on a few types of resources to deliver major aid to camps with similar issues. But what would be a good threshold to determine if a lack of a certain NFI or the intensity of a certain risk factor constitutes as critical?
Well, the reason why we are even doing this right now is because we have limited resources for these campsites. Therefore, it is important that we set an appropriate threshold for these indicators such that we ultimately deliver major aid to a number of sites we can handle. As of now, I think it would be a good start to classify campsites with less than 25% of households having these NFIs as critically lacking these NFIs.
We can abstract the number of critically lacking NFIs before associating the number with a corresponding level of overall availability. 3 as low, 2 as medium, 1 or 0 as high. As for crowdedness, we can categorize as such. More than 50% of households living in congested or overcrowded shelters means high crowdedness. 1 to 50% means medium, while anything below is low crowdedness. We should adjust these numbers if ultimately the number of overall high-risk campsites is too high or too low.
That makes sense. We'll go with that for now to see if we categorize too many or too few campsites as high risk at the end. How can we link the primary health concerns and risk indicators?
Research has shown that the availability of mosquito nets are crucial to reduce the outbreak of malaria. A special type of net called an insecticide-treated net is one of the most effective ways to curb severe malaria episodes. This makes the proper use of mosquito nets to be crucial in preventing malaria-related deaths, reducing incidences of episodes of malaria by almost half. Secondly, according to Howie et al., pneumonia is a contagious disease spread predominantly by respiratory droplets of infected persons. There is substantial evidence linking bed sharing with someone with a cough to both severe and non-severe pneumonia. In this case, crowdedness could be an extremely important factor in determining the risk of pneumonia outbreak. Thirdly, according to Strina, diarrhea is often caused by the lack of hygiene in many different aspects. A study has shown a significant difference in groups of children with mainly hygienic and unhygienic actions. It showed that the occurrence of diarrhea was 2.2 times higher for children who were mainly unhygienic in their behavior compared to those categorized to be mainly hygienic. The availability of hygiene kits, therefore, is crucial in reducing the risk of diarrhea. We can then do some form of pairing between each primary health concern and the corresponding risk factor.
I have a question though. Look at this pivot table here. When the level of crowdedness is deemed high, there is a substantial jump in the proportion of campsites with malaria as the primary health concern. However, contrary to what you said, the proportion of campsites with pneumonia does not seem to change. Are we sure our research is accurate?
Yes, indeed. Crowdedness is also highly correlated with malaria, given that mosquitoes are attracted by the higher concentration of carbon dioxide and other chemicals in crowded houses. This is evident from a matched case control study in the Gambia, where approximately twice as many children with malaria slept in crowded rooms when compared to controls in the study. Therefore, it should be of no surprise that a larger proportion of campsites have malaria as a primary health concern given higher levels of crowdedness. We just thought that mosquito nets are the most obvious and direct form of indicator of preparedness to deal with a disease outbreak.
That's right. See, it's not just about using data, but how we interpret it in the broader context. Out of the highly crowded campsites, 89% have one of the three health concerns listed as their primary one, compared to 81% in general. Perhaps crowdedness is an important risk factor for multiple disease outbreaks. I propose we incorporate this into the classification of our model.
Before explaining the classification model, we also considered medical availability, given that this is strongly correlated with the amount of medical aid required. We consider unavailability of medicine as low, questionable availability as medium, and availability that comes with quality, quantity, and affordability as high. Let's now look at the model. As mentioned, crowdedness is a critical factor for disease outbreaks. We thus categorize sites with low crowdedness as low risk. Else, we look at 4 different high-risk conditions. The first 3 is the pairings between each primary health concern and risk factor as mentioned before, while the 4th mandates high crowdedness together with low medical availability and low availability of critical NFIs. Else, sites with at most medium medical availability and for critical NFIs will be classified as medium risk. All other sites will be classified as low risk. We end up with 1,244 low-risk sites, 264 medium-risk sites, and more importantly, 1,036 high-risk sites. A robust model does not imply perfection. Assuming from the data set that the truck is the most efficient way of delivering aid, it may be a problem if 646 high-risk sites are inaccessible by truck. Thus, it may actually be more beneficial to devote more resources to more accessible sites. In operation, we propose devoting some resources meant for the 646 sites to the medium-risk sites that are accessible by truck instead. If the organization still has available resources, this is when we return to those sites. As of now, we are unsure of the bandwidth of the humanitarian organization. If 390 high-risk truck-accessible sites is already beyond the target number, then we can continue to filter by focusing on the most prominent issue, malaria. This brings down the number of sites of great interest to 213. You have just learned what the best imperfect model is.